Welcome to the Young Hearts Run Free podcast. Iain Dick, how you doing this evening, Ian?
I'm very good, John. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Oh, delighted to get.
hmm
We've arranged this a wee while ago, but
Yes.
this is the chance that we've had to get together, and we're here to speak about. Well, we'll speak about the Cape Wrath Ultra
hmm
just in a wee bit. But what we like to do is we like to get our guests to describe themselves for our listeners. So not just about the Cape Wrath Ultra, but who is Iain Dick and what's Iain Dick's running journey? Over to you.
Okay, so I suppose in summary of all, I'm a middle of the pack, sort of average kind of runner. Uh, I've only really been running since COVID, when the lockdowns happened. That's kind of where my running journey, in the sense it is just now, kind of started. And mainly for me, I run for adventure, I suppose. There's lots of other things there, like uh, having goals and going through the process of achieving those ones in races like the Cape Wrath, and also just because I really enjoy training. Uh, but for me, kind of previous to that, my main sort of sporting exploits is playing American football. So that's something I did for about 13 years. So I stopped playing that in about 2016. I'd actually lost track of that only because of the podcast here. I went actually back and looked that up. But yeah, American football, quite a different sport from trail running. About running 10 yards was considered a good run back when back in American football. So yeah, like I say, I played for about 13 years. I played for a club, mainly these Kilbride Pirates. And I also was fortunate enough to go and play for Great Britain for a couple of European championships. So yeah, it was a really big part of my life. And then I had about 4 years there since I finished until 2020 and COVID, where I would still train, but nothing really for in particular, with the exception really of skiing. So I'd do weights and stuff like that, and in the ski season we get close, and I would start to do a bit more kind of cardio training and getting conditioning for that. And I predominantly ski with my good friend David Adams, friend of the show. He's been on before for us, his UTMB. Uh, and I think Dave, if I get this right, he did more running for his conditioning for skiing and such. So when I started kind of running in COVID, things just kind of one thing led to kind of another with it, just doing a little bit of distance and a little bit more. And then Dave, who was a little bit more into the running, I just kind of like followed him around a wee bit. Uh, and as nice a man David is, you've got to kind of you've got to watch him, because he'll come out with things now and again like, come on, come, we'll do this race, it'll be fun, we'll run it together, we'll have a laugh. And then you line up at the start and Dave will go full beans and leave you in his dust a wee bit, But nah, it's just a wee bit of banter that we have a wee bit. But I've got a lot to be thankful for Dave for, to be honest. There's a lot of races and things that I probably wouldn't have done for him, and we would have missed out on all those experiences. So it started off in 22, and we started training because of lockdown. Our aim was to do the Ring of Steel race, the Skyline Scotland
Mm-hmm.
one, but that didn't happen, even though it wasn't locked down at that time of year. But the race was cancelled anyway, so we
Yeah.
trained kind of to that point where we thought, well, we'll just go down and give it a shot. We'll just run the route actually on the day that it should have been on. And yeah, I was a complete novice at that point. Went to try and run the route. I hadn't trained on hills whatsoever, and then that about 1,000 meter descent into Glen Nevis just fried my quads. And I remember sitting in a stream at the bottom there for about 5 minutes trying to like get the legs to kind of sort themselves out a wee bit, and then another maybe 10, 15 minutes sitting near the top of Angrianic, wondering how I'm going to get myself out of this mess. They kind of that halfway point about continuing it or going back, and say, how do we work this? But yeah, I got that one done, and that was a lot of lessons learned on that. Uh, I see him in the way of things, kind of just did one kind of main race each kind of year. And it's just trying to, like I say, mainly I do it for adventure, and it's also trying to balance other things in life, with family life. My wife, Natasha, she runs as well. And with a 3 and a 6-year-old, and want to do adventures and stuff with them. So after the Ring of Steel, the next year I did the Drovers Ultra. It just kind of fell. I did a training program because I wanted to run an ultra distance. I'd never done that far before, and it just so happened that one was on at the end where the program ended. So I ran that one in 2021. I won that one actually, but I should really caveat that with the fact that everybody who ran that race podiumed. So.
And I'm looking at the DUV site, 75 kilometers, isn't it?
Yeah.
So tell me what that is in, what's that in miles? Is that about 45 miles or something?
Something like that, 45, 20. Yeah. I can go from miles to kilometers better than I can the other way. But yeah, that's about right.
Okay.
I blonked massively on that one as well. That was another learning curve. I was like, I don't feel like eating. I'll just stop eating. It's like,
right.
I paid for it on the last 10K of that one.
And go and tell me, where is it? Well, yeah, do this first. Where is the Drovers Ultra? Where does that take place, Iain?
So it's an old Drovers road that goes it goes towards Loch Tay, around that's kind of the halfway bit, and you kind of go round and you come back on itself through kind of Comrie. So there's a loop there.
Okay.
I actually don't know if they still do it. I've not really been keeping track with them, but it was an alright wee route.
It's no one I hear on the calendar nowadays. That's why I'm.
Yeah,
That's why I'm.
it's
That's
from the
why
same
I'm,
people that do like the Locals Ultra, I think.
yeah. Okay.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
but
And before we go any further,
yeah.
you've got me American football, right?
Yeah.
Were you always interested in American football? Was that from TV? How did you transition to playing American football?
So I played rugby at school,
Okay.
but something about rugby didn't fully click with me. It was an okay kind of sport, but it just didn't really have that kind of a bit of swagger to it, I suppose, in a sense that American football had. And I grew up on a farm, and one of the guys that worked on the farm, he was really into it, and he had the potential to go across, and he almost went across to the States to actually be paid to play, kind of thing.
Okay.
So I kind of got led into it from him. I started playing when I was 16 or 17 years old at kind of youth level, and then just kept going ever since. I've kind of got an attraction, I suppose, to things that are a bit more unique and different.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting though, because like I say, it's a very different sport, but there's tangibles there. There's things that are there's like kind of weird kind of similarities in a sense, and not even just in the training and the playing. Like see going away and playing in Europe, that experience, that immersive experience of being away from it, it's very similar to going in the Cape Wrath because you're so focused on one thing, and everything else in life is just kind of like it's like you're away from it in a sense. So I always kind of find it quite interesting when you get wee bits and pieces of stuff like that happens.
Yeah. I know nothing about American football. I know they've got I know their cup final's called the Super Bowl, or Champions League final.
That's a good bit, isn't it?
So what? But for people listening in who do have an interest in American football, what position did you play?
I played running back.
Right.
So really, you'd have a line, two lines of big guys, one on defense, one on offense, and you get the quarterback, and most people probably know, the guy, the main position, really, I suppose, in a sense. So he would get the ball, and he would turn around, and he would hand it to me, and all the big guys would block and do all the hard work, and then I would just kind of run in between, kind of thing.
So you're the guy that does the touchdown?
Yeah, I get the glory, yeah.
Okay. See, check me out with the lingo. Touchdowns and that. Brilliant, right? Cool. Okay. Thank you very much for that, Iain. Back to running, because the year after the Drovers Ultra, you rocked up and done the Ultra Trail Snowdonia.
I did, yes, and that led in by David Adams yet again on his
Here he comes
UTMB
again.
on his route to the UTMB, yeah. So yeah, I've still got some stones sitting there that maybe need to be reactivated at some point, but yeah, that was a really good race. I really enjoyed that race. Like I've never been to Wales before, never been down to the obviously Snowdon and stuff like that as well, and yeah, just really impressed with the sort of the trails and the ruggedness on the mountains and stuff. Yeah, it was a good trip. I felt that was a good race for me as well.
And so, as you mentioned about not doing hills and things like that, you must have done hills before you went to Ultra Trail Snowdonia. So When did that change then?
So,
And where do you train?
well, I don't really know where the hill part fully changed. Like with American football and stuff like that, and training, I really enjoy training, and I really enjoy trying to understand why you do certain things. Like studying
Hmm.
the mythology of it all. So, I guess I just started acquiring more and more knowledge on it, and then I suppose also by getting more knowledge, I just had more and more questions as well. Like a lot of things, like my physiology from playing American football was very different to somebody that's had a longer history of just running. American football is a lot of sprinting. It's not the lower end aerobic. So it's
Hmm.
and also like I was much heavier back then as well. Probably the same body weight, but 2 or 3 stone heavier. Uh, so yeah, I just had a lot of questions. I'd maybe researched quite a bit of stuff, but before the UTS 50, I got a coach. Again, a guy that I think was on your podcast quite a while ago, Casey Morgan.
Ah, Casey, great guy.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
he was in Spain then. Don't know
yeah.
if he's still in Spain. Great guy.
I
Yeah.
think he is. I still follow him on Strava. So I knew him from, he used to coach at the Marriott Hotel in Glasgow. So
Hmm.
that's kind of where it led to a little bit. And he trained me or he coached me, sorry, for 3 months before the UTS. And there's a lot of hill stuff in that, and that's when I got into just kind of doing more sort of like hill reps and things like that.
Mm.
Which yeah, it worked well. That was a good race for me. I started to have a wee bit kind of GI issues, maybe potentially near the end of it, but everything else went like really well. The race finished probably just in time. Yeah,
We'll come to GI and we'll come to
aye,
nutrition and all that, what works and what doesn't work. But
yeah,
I'm then interested. I'm sorry, I'm taking you through your introduction, but
yeah, yeah. That's
I'm
all right.
I'm then interested a year later because just very recently the West Highland Way race is just for 2025 has just
Yeah, yeah,
finished. Yeah.
yeah.
And a sub 24-hour West Highland Way race, Ian,
Yeah.
in
That
2023. Yeah.
That,
What were
that's
you
another one that I blame on Dave, but like so appreciative for it.
should
Do
we
you know
just
what I mean?
bring should we just bring Dave in? Will we get him
Let's
in?
bring him on. No, it's like, do you know what it's? I was obviously preparing for this and sitting thinking about it. You think back to that moment when you're kind of like sitting on the fence about whether you should put your name in for it, and it was the same with the Cape Wrath. Kind of feels mad now to be like, why would you even consider not putting your name in for it? Do you know,
Mm,
like, why would you want to like miss the experience and the opportunity that you have? Because I mean, what you have for these opportunities, for my main sort of two races, I'd say the West Highland Way and the Cape Wrath, is you don't get those sort of experiences very often. The highs and the lows, and sometimes the lows are even more special than that what the highs are. You remember them more. Do you know if you've had to work for something?
mm.
Uh,
That's where the learning is as well, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, for me, it's kind of there's, there's kind of two things with my West Highland Way race. So my knee started to kind of go from Benglass Farm, I think, but by the time I got into Bridge of Orchy, I could climb all right, but then I couldn't descend. And I thought, right, okay, I'll wait till we get to the flat, and I could go along the flat. I tried to run on the flat after 20 steps, there was just too much pain. I couldn't really run anymore. And there's kind of a wee bit in me because I was hoping for maybe it's the first time doing that distance, but I was kind of hoping for maybe something a little bit quicker. But 24 hours was always what I kind of really wanted to do, at least that. You can say you've done it within a day, in a sense. So I tried to run along that flat bit, a bit of road that takes you into Victoria Bridge, and my knee wasn't for having it. And you kind of have a wee bit of a, right, okay, what can we do here? What's going to happen? Kind of thing. And what I realised is I could just walk. I could walk, but I could walk like really fast. I was walking probably about on the really flat bits about 8 minutes per kilometre sort of pace, which I'm a bit of a wind up in my like personality in a sense. And my sister was pacing me at that point, but it was just the right pace that was too fast for her to walk, but too slow for her to run. So it was
Ah,
like this is like a really annoying speed you're going at. But I mean, I'd look at people ahead of me and it'd be like, okay, they're running and moving ahead, and then they would stop and they would kind of saunter a little bit and I would catch them up. And it kind of went like, and I kind of realized, you know what, I'm not getting overtaken by loads of people. And as it kind of went on and doing some numbers in my head, I was like, do you know what, I could maybe still get in within the 24 hours. And that became the goal. And I made my brother-in-law walk all the way from Kinloch leaving all the way to Fort William along that section. I think he's walked that a few times now. But
Were you still walking at that same pace?
yeah,
Or,
yeah.
yeah.
So I put time maybe on people on the ups because I could push on the ups. I could walk fast and could do that. That gave me no
Mm,
issues. So I thought, right, on the ups, I'll push. It's kind
yeah.
of the opposite to what you normally do. But on the flats and the downhills, I couldn't run, and people would just go away from me kind of thing. So in one sense, I'd say it was nice because it's nice to kind of have a bit of adversity. In my mind, I want a bit of something. If you do a race like
Mm,
that and you don't get anything, you're a bit like, well, shortchanged a little bit in a sadistic sense, maybe. But on the other side to it, I don't know what I really would have been able to achieve.
yeah.
So potentially, if that thing hadn't happened to my knee, I would have been going faster. Maybe I would have had different challenges with eating or feet or
Mm.
whatever kind of thing. But I mean, I could eat food no problem whatsoever because my pacing was so much slower. So
Can I ask, you say that thing that happened to your knee. What happened to your knee?
no, no, no. Yeah, so I don't really know what caused it. It was pain kind of on the outside of the knee. I don't know exactly what the medical, the physio sort of term would be of what would go wrong for it. What I do suspect and kind of quite confident that I overtrained for the West Highland Way. I
Okay.
was doing yeah, I was just doing too much and I wasn't giving my body a chance to recover. So
Okay.
I like all the data and stuff that the Garmin and things gets,
Yeah.
and heart rate variability is one of the things that I look at. And I remember looking back there, and that wasn't coming back up to the sort of range that it should be in for it.
Okay. And what
It's
about after the West Highland Way? Did it just recover naturally? Have you rested?
oh, it did a bit. I think I gave it about a few weeks, and then I went to see a physio on it, but never really got any answers in that.
Mm.
Uh, and then yeah, it just. I did the Ochels 2000, and that must I can't remember what time of year that was in. Is it August or September?
August, September, isn't
August.
it? Yeah.
So I was back in okay form for that, but I don't know. This seems to be a wee thing that kind of recurs a little bit because I was aware of this with the Cape Wrath as well, and
Okay.
it's like that way people talk about the taper niggles or whatever. It was like one of those things. So but I was aware of it and I got some needling and stuff done, which seemed to totally reset it all. It's like I guess just with the training volume over time it accumulates and it starts to kind of give wee issues with maybe just a bit of the way my hips or whatever track a little bit. Like I
Yeah.
think my running mechanics are relatively decent, but there's a little bit of something there on that right hand side that's maybe, when you're doing back to back 100K-ish sort of weeks, it kind of starts to like show itself a wee bit in a sense.
Mm. Just
So
your body going, hey man, come on.
yeah, yeah,
But sub 24 West Highland Way is
I'm
a
happy with that.
fantastic achievement. Will
Yeah,
you?
thank you.
It's a quick question. Will you go back? If you could go back, because I'm sensing that you weren't 100% happy with that. You could have done more. If the knee thing wasn't happening,
I wouldn't say no, put it that way.
okay.
Uh,
So Busy and Ben are listening in. There you
yeah,
go.
but part of it is a little bit like I know quite a few people that put their names in the hat for this year, and a lot of them didn't get in, and it's kind of like, well, I would rather let them have their shot, kind of thing, a little bit in a
Sure.
sense, in
Yeah,
one
yeah.
bit, but and then also it's like I feel like I like the rugged kind of stuff a bit more, and
Mm,
to try and then do something different rather than repeat something I've already done.
sure.
But like I say, I wouldn't say no to it, I suppose.
If somebody chapped your door next week and says, next summer, Ian, when we'll do the West Highland Way, free
Oh, and it'll
play.
be a laugh. We'll do it together.
Ah, Dave Adams would be like, eh? So, yeah, yeah, cool. And then, you know what? That was 23.
Yeah.
24, Highland
20,
Fling.
nah, 24, the thing. Well, that was kind of an off year for me, to be honest. What happened after during the winter, I had kind of like all the signs of what was like a hernia, but it never really got diagnosed as that. So like I
Okay.
kind of had a bit of a year off doing something where I'd be so focused in on the training. And just kind of the way it all kind of happened, it creates a nice balance in life. I think, Natasha, like my wife, she did the devil that year, and it was kind of it allowed me to have a bit more focus, so she could do her thing, and I could support her doing that in a sense, you know. Like she would go up for recce runs and things, and I would go up with the boys, drop her off, and we'd make a little adventure out of it for everything, and it kind of, you know, immerse and let them experience it in
Yeah.
a sense, and kind of afterwards, kind of thinking about it, it's like, you know what, that's kind of a nice little balance in a sense. So, I don't know if I'm going to do something next year. It's like, but
Okay.
maybe something
Yeah.
more relaxed. You know, still do a race, but then it's just not having something where you're so focused in on it, you know, because it does. It's hard to fit it all in.
Yeah, definitely. Life's are busy,
Mm-hmm.
definitely should be. What I do love though, and it's just a bit of an aside, having a mummy and a daddy that are out running and doing that sort of stuff is sending
Yeah.
a good message to your kids as well for
Oh, yeah.
that outdoors and fitness and adventures and
Yeah.
so
Oh, my oldest used to be when he was a bit younger. He'd be like, "Ah, Mummy, Daddy, go run up there," and then my younger one, even since he was 2 years old, his downhill running technique is like phenomenal. It's like you're watching him when we are looking in the edge of our seats, and this is like on like Monroe paths and things,
yeah.
eh? And his footwear of choice is Crocs. You know, they don't do trail
Brilliant.
shoes for 2 year olds.
They've,
You know,
they've
he would
got
make use of them,
natural,
but
yeah.
he's just I think it's his proprioception or whatever, and it's just yeah, he's lots of good little clips of videos of him running down these paths with big mountains in the background, and it's pretty cool.
They've just got a natural
Yeah,
agility and ability,
yeah,
and no fear,
yeah.
so
He's not
absolutely.
looking at his feet either, you know. He's
Yeah,
looking
he's
at his big
looking
brother chasing after him. Like,
brilliant, brilliant. So just your fling,
yeah,
finish
yeah.
time 11 hours and 5 minutes. Were you happy
Uh-huh.
with that?
I didn't even know that was the finish time of it, to be honest. Like I say, I took that one easy, and that was like I took that period easy because I didn't know what was happening with my sort of roundabout where a hernia would be. You know, it's my first kind of race back, so it was not one of those should I do it, I shouldn't do it. And I thought, you know what, I'll just go, and like if I have to pull out, I'll pull out. It doesn't matter, you know. See how things go. And we spent that first section up into like Palmaha with like a group of other people, and we just had such a laugh. Do you know, there was so much banter back and forth with, you know, as like, Dave wasn't there, obviously he was away at the front. It's like, but there's a guy that we were on with Gav, and then Ben was there, and Bell and Joe, and yeah, we were just having. Ben had a packet of almond fingers that he took for most of the race, trying to fob them off on people, and nobody would take some. It's just, you know, it was just so much banter and stuff on it. So I kind of ran with them till Balmaha, and then actually things that felt really good. So I kind of then started pushing on from there. Uh, I'd also wanted to do a race, but it was a bit more, I don't know, paced more properly in a sense. And at the end, yeah, I remember having I wanted to keep a good bit of energy to finish strong at the end. But I remember crossing the road at the bit near Octasire, and the person's like, only three to go, and I'm like. Well, I work in kilometres, don't I? But they obviously don't. They work in they work in miles. And I was like, I was like, that's been 3K already. What's going on here? I've still got a bit to go. So yeah, it was, a bit gassed at the end of it. But no, it was a good fun event. Yeah, yeah.
Brilliant, yeah, brilliant, cool. That's been a almost 20-minute introduction
Wow.
to who is Iain Dick, and you've shared about family as well. So thank you very much for doing that.
Sure.
Let's move on to Cape Wrath.
Wow.
So for those people that maybe don't know, I think because some people that listen to the podcast, they've come from a 5K, 10K, they're thinking about a half marathon or a marathon.
Hmm.
Then they hear about this thing, ultra marathons, and that's normally like a intro to that. It's like a 33 miles, or the fling being 53 miles, and then you hear about these multi-day staged events.
Yeah.
So, in your words, Ian, what is the Cape Wrath Ultra?
The big rugged brother to the West Island Way.
Oh,
That's the way I like to think about it. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
It's a different beast, and they're both beautiful in their own way. But I suppose that the facts about it, you know, it's an 8 day stage race from Fort William all the way up to the lighthouse at Cape Wrath, and it goes through some of the most spectacular bits of Scotland, and the scenery and the things you see along route. Yeah, it's just incredible. Uh, even just the names of the places you go through, you know, there's things like Inchnadam, you know, Kinlochhorn, Rough Bounds and Neudart. It's like a pirate's named it or something, or it's out of Lord of the Rings or something like that, you know.
What's the falls one? The Falls of
Falls of Womach.
Aye.
Aye.
You say that with a right good Scottish
Aye.
accent, eh? Aye. Brilliant. And just go and please bear with me. Can you
Yeah, yeah,
hold up
yeah.
the medal to the screen
There we go.
for
I've wrapped
those
up here.
watching on
You do
for
my,
those
it's my
watching
weight
on
training. It's my
YouTube?
weight training for the day. There we
Aye, for
go.
those watching on YouTube, there's Ian's medal for completing.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
bit of a spoiler. Ian
I can't
completed
really
the
hang
Cape
it on
Wrath
the
Ultra.
wall behind me with the rest of them because it probably pull the nail out
Aye.
the wall with it. You know, it's a fair bit of
Well,
weight on it.
to give a bit of context, Ian came on the call wearing it, but had to take it off because it was too heavy around his neck.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so thank you very much for that. So, I think we know what attracted you to do this. You've mentioned about adventure and ruggedness and
Yeah, yeah.
that outdoors, and that's the sort of terrain that you like. But how did you, 8 days, man, how did you
Yeah.
prepare physically and mentally going into that event?
So this is my first, well, it would be my first sort of stage race, and again, it's just something different to do for it. And I think one of the biggest things that's different from this compared to like the West Highland Way or a more single, you know, one stage
Yeah,
sort of race is the amount of admin that's required for everything else. You know, like your sleeping stuff, multi-day food, and all those other bits and pieces that go into it. Physically, it was probably just a bit more straightforward, to be honest. You know, I started training in September and took things really gradual up until January, and then kind of like had a stage there of upping it a bit more. You know, it was a few weeks of kind of just upping the volume, then another few weeks of introducing hills and doing a bit more kind of hill work, and then back to back runs. You know, I think back to back runs is one of the things that's more key for this sort of thing than maybe some other races.
but sorry, I've just got to jump in.
Mm,
But balancing that
mhm,
back-to-back stuff
yeah,
must have a very understanding Natasha at home
yeah,
to to to, to look after the children, because
yeah,
having
yeah,
kids that age is very demanding in
yes,
its own right, you know. But also that just a few minutes ago we spoke about the West Highland Way and how that thing with your knee might have been as a
mm,
result of overtraining.
mhm,
Had you learned lessons from that going into this with
yeah.
regards to your training?
I need to keep that sort of mindset of mine that likes the training or pushing all the time at bay a wee bit. But yeah,
Okay.
with this one certainly, because really it's a lot more about time on feet. You know, a lot of
Hmm.
people do back to backs with like hiking days and stuff like that, and that side it's really important. But it's a lot of long, slow, and I didn't do sort of like fast, flat kind of intervals for this one, and I
Yeah.
feel that that's one of the things that maybe antagonized things a little bit. So I feel like I'd learned and adapted a little bit. Physically, probably one of so yes, the majority of it was all sort of long, slow stuff, you know, some hills and back-to-back days.
Yeah.
One of the biggest injuries and issues that people have at the Cape Wrath is issues with the anterior tibialis muscle. So that muscle that's in the lower part of your leg that's kind of for braking, I think. Uh, so I did quite a bit of focus on trying to strengthen that. Uh, I did, you know, you get these wee weight things you can put weights on your feet and you pull your feet back up with them. So I started doing bits like that as well as some sort of plyos and I suppose uphill bounds. So I did sort of wee drills during some of my runs in the middle, you know, just stuff like that. And I feel that really kind of helped. My lower legs were solid for it. And
When you're
also
saying plyo, you're talking like plyometrics. That's that
plyometrics, yeah. But
jumping about, isn't
yeah,
it?
jumping about, yeah.
Aye, okay.
Jump,
Yeah, yeah.
jumping about up hills. I had a
Yeah.
wee timer on my watch. I remember doing one of these loops, and there's a wee hill bit that was coming to, and I was maybe on my, I don't know, second or third step and or set, and then these people come round the corner, and it's like, do I carry on doing these really weird looking downs while these people come around there? It's like, well, let's carry on with it. Like, I've kind of some strange looks and such, but so yeah, I kind of really focused on that, and I also focused on my ankle strength. I've had issues in the past where I've rolled an ankle and things, and that was probably my biggest worry. My training block actually for this one started with me in October doing a wee recce at Kinlochhorn and twisting my ankle on that. it's maybe a wee notorious sort of section that goes around there. It's like 5-10K, the last 5-10K, and it's a very slow last 5-10K. It's they warn people don't expect it to be like your normal what it would have to be. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it's just very uneven. So, but that all took care of itself with the training and the strength stuff, and I didn't have. I was lucky. That was my big worry during, and did have twist my ankle or something like that during the race, and luckily that didn't happen. So.
And just to move to the mental side of stuff,
Mhm.
right? How did you feel when you got? Or tell me about the sign-up process. Is it like a ballot? Is it? Have
No, no.
they've got limited spaces? Or if you sign up, you're in.
I think it's 200 people they take.
Okay.
I think that's right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's 200 people. I think this is the first year it fully sold out.
Right.
Uh, and you get people who do like the full race, and you get other people that do what they call like the explorer. So you get a lot of people that want to come along, but some of the days maybe feels like it's too big to do the whole thing for what they want to do with it, you know.
Mm,
So they would do like a half of a day. You know, they might do like
okay.
all of day one, day two, they'll pick which half they want to do. And I think that kind of spurred on from the fact that everybody used to do the whole race, and you pay quite a bit of money to do this, and you invested quite a lot of time and effort into it.
Mm,
And if you get an issue on the first or second day, it's quite sad to just have to go home. But the
yeah.
Explorer allowed people to then maybe miss a day, but then carry on and do like another half of a bit later on, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
Okay.
there's options for a really wide range of abilities to
Mm.
go and take part in it.
So you're sitting, you sign
Mm,
up, it goes through, you put in your
mm,
bank details,
uh-huh,
it gets done, you do the authenticating thing on your phone and all that sort of stuff, and you get
mhm.
an email that says, "Congratulations, Ian.
Yeah, yeah.
You're into the Cape Wrath." How did that feel when you'd actually signed up?
Yeah, try to remember back to it. Yeah, no, it was it's exciting, you know. I remember the lead up to the West Highland Way and the excitement that does and that slow build. And it was the same with this one. I kind of knew that's kind of what I was in for. Do you know, like it almost like
Mm,
becomes all of your life a little bit in a sense. You think about it every day. Uh, so I suppose at that point I knew, do you know, that this is what's coming. This is what's happening
yeah.
now. And the close, it's like those sort of things. Whenever you've got something like that, the closer you get to it, the faster it comes in, and it's
Mm.
like that time's not waiting on you, kind of thing. You know, you've got no control when it just starts coming up. So
When did
yeah,
you sign up? When was it? Was it last year?
uh, yeah, it must have been August, September time, beginning of
Right. So,
September.
because the reason when you're just talking about time,
Yeah.
once you hit January,
Hmm.
or once you hit the Christmas holidays,
Yeah.
right, it's getting close. And then once you
Hmm.
hit January, it's like,
It
okay,
just
this is
gets
getting
faster.
this is,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is getting nippy now, and
It
the time
becomes
just
real.
speeds up, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah,
Speeds
yeah.
up. Entries are open now for the
Yeah. I
26
was gonna
Cape
say, yeah.
Wrath Ultra. So
Mentally
first,
last as well.
yeah, so that mental preparation. What
Mhm.
what focus did you give there?
I mean, I was kind of okay with it, to be honest. I guess in my mind, the way I try and think of it is just to embrace it. You know,
Mm,
you can get anxious about it. There's this excitement that sits there on you, but you have to embrace that, I think, in a sense. Because, like I say with the other stuff previously, it's like you don't get these sort of feelings very often. You know, you've got to kind of embrace them a wee bit. I mean, when I played American football, sometimes I would get anxiety before a game. And I kind of learned that what I was doing was the wrong thing. I was getting myself all kind of hyped up and stuff like that, listening to music far too early on. And then all that excitement would then transfer over to like a lot more anxiety. Uh, and you kind of learn to kind of just keep cool, try and keep cool, calm and relaxed, you know, be jovial up until a certain point. So when we played the GB, that point to kind of flick the switch would be when you would sing the national anthem, for instance. Like,
mm,
again, there's like similarities here. So when you Cape Wrath, you're trying to keep nice and calm. You get on the boat, you go on the boat, and when you get off the boat, there's somebody playing the bagpipes, and that's kind of like a flick the switch moment because when someone's playing the bagpipes, you can't really not flick the switch at that sort of point
mm.
to it kind of thing, you know. Uh, and yeah, that's kind of like a goosebump sort of point a little bit as well, you know.
I'm intrigued though. I'm intrigued. How do you stop flicking the switch? before that, because getting on the boat is a okay. It's like, here we go.
Jokes.
Yeah.
Jokes. See, when I played American football, there was a guy there who was really funny. There was a few guys that were really funny, and the banter and stuff like that. Immerse yourself in a little bit of that, a bit of jovialness, a little bit of joke, kind of like that to me helps calm me. I suppose
Mm.
everybody would be different, you know. Some people might listen to relaxing music or something. I don't know. But for me, it was to be a little bit kind of like a little bit jokey, uh, in a sense, and that just relaxed me. And it's
Okay.
yeah, but I
Cool.
wasn't going into the Cape Wrath. I wasn't too anxious or anything like that about it. There was one guy I became kind of friends with recently, a guy Mark Smith. He's done it before, and he gave me a lot of good advice. And it was just one wee thing that he said to me about the training and stuff like that. He says, "You've done everything right," and that wee bit just stuck in my head. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Have faith in yourself.
yeah,
What
yeah.
you've done, your training.
Trust your
Did
training.
did you, when you rocked up and got on that boat? Did you feel in a good place physically, mentally? Did you feel
Yeah,
good? Ready?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I say, I had those uh, paper niggles, as I've heard somebody talk about them maybe about 3, 4 weeks before. And I went and I got physio treatment on it. I got some needling and stuff done, and it seemed like it needed it done kind of thing. They were putting the needles in and everything spasmed, which I think's what it's supposed to do to reset it. And that kind of yeah, I think that worked. I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
also gave me the opportunity at that point. I tapered maybe a week or two earlier than what I was planning on, but that allowed me to then do a bit of heat training, which I probably would have found it hard to balance because you don't want to do too much heat training on top of all a big volume of loads. You know, you want to try and balance those things because it's really
Mm.
intensive. So as that took away from that last wee bit of training, I managed to feed it the opportunity to feed something else in that would have been of benefit.
This is
So
brilliant. We're hearing lots of people now talking about heat training. Yeah, we live in
yeah, yeah,
Scotland, and yeah, it can, but it's not like living
can
in
be hot.
Jamaica,
Yeah.
right? But it gets warm. It gets warm when
Well,
you're
it's
running.
it's what your body's acclimatized to. When you come out in the
Yeah,
winter and our body's acclimatized to like 10 degrees, then you go to 20, that's
yeah,
a lot.
yeah,
So, sorry,
yeah.
John, you're going to say.
No, no, no. And that happens every year.
Yeah.
The seasons change every year.
Hmm.
But no, I was going to ask a question about. It was when you were talking about training. I've lost my train. I've lost my thought. But that's okay. It'll come back to me. It always does.
Sorry.
Might hate when you have to in the morning to finish that. But anyway, that's okay. No, that's cool. So you mentioned earlier on that you like data, but I'm
Yeah, yeah.
assuming you like a spreadsheet. Okay.
I've got a spreadsheet, yep.
Yeah. Okay. So was there different strategies for different days? Do you know for the Cape Wrath Ultra, 8 days? Do you get a GPX for every day, or is it one of these things that's shrouded in secrecy and you get a map at the start of each day? How does it work?
So, yeah, you get given a GPX, you get given a map. Where's my map? It's my wee memento for it. So we've got the map.
Mm-hmm.
That's a mandatory piece of equipment that you get given that as part of the race. That's the one from a few years ago. I got given that from a friend so I could look at it and study it beforehand. It doesn't change too much each year. There's wee bits that alter, but you get given the GPX files, and it's generally quite straightforward to follow the route on it. You know, there's generally either there's other people there, or you can't go too far wrong. There's a couple of wee bits. Uh, Minor details or slightly faster routes or things you can take out, but it's kind of smaller intricate kind of things.
Is it waymarked like the West Highland Way?
No,
Nothing like that. Just
no,
GPX on your watch.
yeah, yeah. I think there has some bits in some places, but generally it's not. As a route overall, as like a trail, like people that hike it and stuff. There's lots of variances and different ways you can
Okay.
do it, you know. So,
But
but
for the event, you've got to follow their route.
yeah, you need what they say is you need to stay within about 200 meters. There's a 200-meter sort of border that
Yeah.
they put in it, and you kind of have to stay within that. And there's a few places where it's pathless, and for me, I found them probably some of the most fun kind of bits as well, because when you get to that, you look around and there's people all over the place kind of thing, and you see somebody like they spot you down a wee bit further away, and you see them looking at their watch, checking if who's got in the right bit or who's got the best line, and it's just fun, kind of those bits, you know. There's sections like on day 6, when you come round the corner of this hill and you've got where a river converges and you're just aiming for a point, and people kind of spread out a little bit. So,
Brilliant.
yeah.
Brilliant. And I can see you smiling there when you're talking about pathless areas, because you do love an
Yeah.
adventure.
Yeah.
Suss that one
I
out.
think because of the amount of footfall that's going through there is progressively becoming a little bit less unpathed, which is a little bit unfortunate, I suppose, in my opinion. But yeah, there's always places you can go to find pathless routes if you want to, I suppose.
So I know nothing about the stage's distance
Yeah.
each day. Do you want to talk through day
So,
1, day 2? Take us through the distances.
so the first day, Fort William to Glenfinnan, uh, is 35k and about, I was just shy of 600 meters elevation. So I
Okay.
suppose in summary of all day 1 and 8 are kind of the shorter ones, and then there's like ultra distances all kind of in between. So that's day 1. Day 2, you go from Glenfinnan to Kinlochhorn, and that's a 56k with 2,000 meters. I'm reading, by the way, what my Strava said, not what the actual
Okay.
put up on the race, because it does vary a little, a little bit. Some of the days are actually thinking, oh, it's going to be really long. It's actually a bit shorter, but the elevation's more, so it's, yeah.
Yeah.
So day 3 is the biggie. It's not really the longest fully, but it's the one that takes the most time because it's got 2,600 meters elevation. Then day 4 and day 5 they're shorter days. So after like day 1, day 2 and 3, you kind of get a little bit of a rest on day 4, and then day 4 is nice because people get to camp a bit earlier, so you kind of gel with people and camp a little bit. You get more time if everybody comes in. Whereas obviously there's other ones people are coming in later and sorting all their stuff out, and there's not as much chatting. Obviously people get to know each other by that point. So day 4 and 5 shorter. Day 5, sorry, was 40k, 1,300 meters, and then day 6 is another long one. So I clocked 66k on that one, but it was 1,500 meters, so about
Right.
1,000 meters less than what day 3 was. And then there's a 60k, 2,000 odd meters for day 7, and then day 8, which is kind of like very similar to, well, in time it's very similar to day 1, it's 25k and 1,100 meters. I think, see, one of the things about the beauty of the trail is what I thought I've been doing about day 8. You think it's just a small bit at the end, but the trail really gives right to the end. You've been through all these mountains and stuff like that, and you come to day 8 and it takes you to Sandwood Bay, and it's the first time you've been to like a bay and a beach and stuff like that, and what a beach to kind of go to with it. And then you've got coastline that's really rugged that you're coming up and down again, pathless areas there, uh, and it's just, yeah. And then the lighthouse, it kind of, people seen it from earlier on, like near where the actual beach was. I didn't realize you could see it from that far back. Only heard people talking about that after, but my head was, I don't know, elsewhere at that point. And they all talk about getting to the lighthouse, and I think one of the things that's really beautiful about it all is that you don't see the lighthouse until that you come around that last corner, you know. And I was on that section on the last day. Uh, I was following, or I'd meet up with the girl Sarah Ingram. She won the women's race, and she kind of caught up behind me, and she came in front, and she was really good at running down that sort of trackless stuff. And I kind of needed somebody to follow at that point, so I tucked in behind her. And then later on, there's another guy that took off down quite near the end. But I wanted to get a bit of a gap for that last road section coming in, and you're trying to work out, well, what's that person going to do. I didn't really care if he was going to be in front of me or behind me or whatever kind of thing. I just wanted a bit of a gap for coming into the finish. Sorry, I'm jumping around here, John. This is a
That's
quick
okay.
question,
No,
but
on you
but
go.
yeah. So I thought, well, I ended up being in front of him coming out. So I was like, I'm going to push a wee bit here to try and get in front of him. But was oh, that was one of the weather changed on day 7. Basically, we'd had beautiful sunshine and hot weather up until end of day 6. But on day 8, every time I tried to push at that last bit, the wind would just blow even harder at you, kind of thing. They'd taken the gantry down that you run through at the end because it was obviously just getting blown over. But then you come round this corner and it just sits there in front of you. You've only got like 700 odd meters to go, and like all that all that pain that you have, stuff that you're feeling in your knees and your ankles and stuff like that. It just, I've never had anything like that before. It just lifts. It's like the endorphins or whatever. And it was like, yeah, it was slightly downhill, but I was running for me a pretty fast pace, and I was like, this feels really fast, and I was checking. I was like, oh, that's all right, And you just got that bit down to the end. And it just felt right. It felt, even though it was fast, it just felt easy. It's probably the fastest I've ran all week, all 8 days. Uh, yeah, and it's just great the way that the trail finishes in that sort of way. It keeps something right to the end for you. You know.
When you're describing the bay and the lighthouse, that's the stuff that I've seen on social media, and it just looks absolutely stunning. And
Yeah.
it's that the lighthouse then suggests, obviously, you're at the end of the land. That's where the lighthouse is going to be, and it's really, really right remote, which is quite brilliant. And people listening in will be staggered, I'm sure, at the numbers you were mentioning there, both the distance and the elevation, because you're talking big numbers for 8 days.
You're
Do you know what I
just
mean?
shy of 400k overall. I don't know. I've not totaled the elevation, but yeah.
Yeah, it's quite and so like for somebody to say, "I would do that. That sounds all right. The first day sounds brilliant, 25 or 30k, and that's so much meters elevation. But then you've got to get up at your bed the next day, and that's a bit I want to speak about, Ian. That we'll call it admin, right? When you finish a stage and you get back, or you get to the next camp that's there, please tell me they had tents made up for you. Didn't you put your
Aye.
tent up every day?
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So
So
like, it's sorry.
speak through the admin of when you finish, you go and get something to eat. It says on their website there's copious amounts of food, so we'll speak
Why?
about that as well. But that admin that you do, so you come in and what have you got? Like, is it like a big rucksack you've got with you?
Yeah, they give you it's one of the only bits of kit that you have to have, mandatory bits that they're specific on what you actually need to have. So you've got a 70-litre bag, and you're allowed to take 20 kilos with you. And that's, yeah. And they take that between each of the campsites. And they also, I suppose the best way of describing it is they dismantle and set up a small village every single day for you. And that's
What
got
what makes up that 20 kilos? Is that kit?
mainly food probably. So you take all your running during the day food. They supply you like breakfast and dinner and as much chips as you want to eat.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
And yeah, so I think people generally have like 5, 6, 7 kilos worth of nutrition. But then you also need to have your sleeping bag in there, things like, your tape, spare pair of trainers, your anything else like poles, and I forget what most of it is, but yeah, it mounts up quite quickly. I think the first time I got it all together, I had about 16 kilos and thought, oh, I'm jamming, so that's good, I'm well within. And then the next time I weighed it, I was 21 kilos, and I'm like, what have I added here? Yeah, I had like a couple of packs of sweeties that are like, what was it, like jelly beans or something. I was like, I'll just take them back out again. I went a bit over the top with adding things.
So
So
when you finished day
yeah,
1, day 2, day 3, what was the first thing you did when you had your tea? What was the first thing you did?
depends. If it was sorry, after I had my
Like your meal, or did you get all settled first, then you had your meal?
oh, so
Or
like people do different things, and I spoke to you probably know Scott Nichol. He'd done the race before, and he gave a lot of good intel and stuff for me. He was really quite strict and had it really well nailed down as to how to do it. So like generally when I would come in, because like the way I kind of thought about it a little bit is it's not just the running. Once you come in, you've got a lot of stuff you need to get sorted. You can't just like you need to get that done. Uh, so I would come in, my sleeping bag and sleeping mat was also at the top of my bag. So I'd take that out and throw that out, kind of half set that up in a sense. Next, I would take in and have my wee day bag for stuff. So it'd basically be a wee bag I could carry around. It would have my bowl, my spoon, a cup and stuff in it, and then some stuff for washing. And I'd make a decision about whether I wanted to eat first or go for a wash in the stream kind of thing, or a wee sit in the stream to let the muscles recover. Sometimes I'd grab food and then eat them on the way there, kind of
Mhm.
stuff. So there's a few things that kind of need to be done, and depending on how I feel, the order would change slightly. But I always got things roughly set up. Uh, I know some people were get their bags sorted for the next day at that point, but I kind of prioritized the other stuff first, and I'd come back and do that after. kind of thing. And then you go there, and you've always got, whenever you arrive in camp, there's always soup and chips, as much as you want, kind of thing. And then there's dinners served like, was it 6 or half 6, and it's all vegetarian or vegan kind of food, and pretty good food actually. It was nice. I'd also probably on top of that sometimes get like something to rehydrate, like a bit of effervescence, electrolyte tablet or a protein shake that I had on. I only had that really on the bigger after the bigger days. So I mean, that could take a bit of time, sorting all that out. And then even in the morning, you're doing all that in reverse, that can take like an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes, possibly, if you're also needing to tape your feet or do any medical stuff. And I need to mention one woman, Erin Shaw, who we became really good friends in the lead up to the race. My wife did a race about a year or that ago, not a race, sorry, a thing with Travel in Scotland in the Cairngorms, and she just gave so much information, she was just so friendly and helpful with it all. She was an American that came over, but she was the back of the packer. And to kind of put into perspective a little bit, I didn't fully realise this until after, in the last day, she said to me, this is the first time I've eaten a hot meal on the event, because she would come back in at 10 o'clock on several nights, and she wasn't getting to bed till 12 o'clock or midnight, so she would come in, she'd get her chips, because the kitchen closes at 10, she'd get her chips and her soup and the evening meal. She'd eat her chips first, then the soup, and then by the time she got to the evening meal, it'd be cold, kind of thing. So the people like that, it's a different sort of race for them, in a sense. They're coming at 10 o'clock, they're getting all sorted, it's maybe past 12 o'clock by the time they get to bed, and then they're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning again. To do it all
doing
again.
that day after day after day.
Yeah. It's tough.
That's a different kind of tough, man.
You bow your hats to them, head to them,
Yeah. So, what about sleeping? Did you sleep all right at night?
Oh, I slept well, yeah.
Are you
That
a
was
good
one of my
sleeper
worries.
anyway?
So I had a really good mat. It's a Sea to Summit mat, and the thing I thought was really good about it is I had two. So you fill it with air, but it's had two sections to it, the bottom and the top. So just like a backup, if one was to burst, the other would still be okay. But it was all kind of fine, and it was a sleeping bag, and I generally slept well enough. You're never going to get a sleep like you're going to get in your home bed at home. There was, after a few days, I started taking a couple paracetamol before I went to bed. There was one night in particular that I woke up really sore in the middle of the night. I don't know, sometimes I was sleeping on bed, like camp beds like that, because I camp now and again. I do fast packing and stuff, so I'm a little bit used to it. Sometimes I feel like I stretch out a bit more or something like that, and I woke up with sort of really sore muscles, or and you'd wake up in the morning and your feet would just feel full and maybe like partly fused or what. And I'm making a wee video of my trip, what I did now, and you see the bits in the morning, and it's like you're shuffling around really slowly, and then you'll see the bit when I start running. It's like, how's that? Like, as if there's a fair contrast there to the body warms up and gets going. But I slept. I'm happy enough with the way I slept in it. I think that was enough to give me good recovery.
I want to speak about. You've mentioned feet a few times, right? I want to speak about feet, but I think what I'd like to cover first. Oh, that's like. I'm not. I'm not gonna. I'm not going to phone you. I have to. I've remembered.
Yes.
You mentioned about working with Casey Morgan. Were you coached by anybody prior to this event?
Yes. So not so much coached, but mentored is slightly different. So I would write my own programs and stuff. And Neil McNichol.
No, Run Recover. Yeah.
Yeah.
Run and
So
Become.
I'd have calls with him every month,
Cover.
and he would also send me wee tips and bits and pieces. He'd keep me on the straight with bits and things. It was him that got me doing those uphill bounds. Yeah, his stuff was it was a good way of doing it. And the reason I did it that way round is because I can write my own program to fit in with family life. Do you know what I mean? We got a family thing there, okay. I can bump that back, I can switch that around. It's just easier for me to do that myself. And like I said, I like to try and understand the knowledge behind it all and how it all fits together. And for me, just being that middle pack kind of guy, it doesn't really matter if I've not optimized it for that extra 1%. What does it matter really? Do you know? Did I have a decent race? Did I enjoy it? It's more important. So yeah.
Cool. So Neil McNichol ticks all the boxes. Well done, Neil. Brilliant. And the question where I was going with that was, is there medics, GB, is it GB Ultras that do the event, or URI events?
Yeah.
URI events that do it. Is there medics on hand? You're mentioning about feet. So if you've got bad blisters or needing tape done, do they help with that, or are you got to do that yourself?
You're expected to do a certain amount yourself, but they're always there to help you. That's kind of the way, is it? If you can do it yourself, then get on with it a little bit, I think is a bit. And I think they're a little bit more, they're always there to help you. If you ever need help, they'll be there. But they're a little bit hands off, for want of a better phrase, a little bit in a sense, like in that bit. But yeah, they were good. I went in a few times because I haven't done a lot of taping my feet, and I just wanted to make sure I was kind of doing it right. And that was more earlier on, as obviously as the days go on, the medic tent gets busier and busier with people going in. But I was quite happy just taping my feet and sorting me bits and pieces myself. My feet lasted pretty well, to be honest. I'm quite happy with what happened. I'd done a lot of filing and moisturising in the months leading up to it. I had one wee bit on I don't know what you call it, the bit back from your big toe that I wasn't happy with, the wee kind of callus there. And so I got a small blister there. On the outside of both heels, I got small blisters, all really manageable stuff. I stopped halfway through day 2 for like 10-15 minutes to take care of it when it became a hot spot, to put a bit of tape on. I got a pretty big blister on my pinky, which was strange because they gave me no issues whatsoever, but it's ballooned up. Popped it, drained it, and it was fine.
Can I ask what tape? You mentioned tape. What kind of tape were you using on your feet?
I went down a rabbit hole with tape. I went down a rabbit hole with feet in general.
Yeah. Well,
just in summary,
I think before we pressed record, we were saying that feet plays a massive part in anybody's race, especially a multi-day event. So tape. What tape were you using?
It was largely kinesio tape, but there's also, is it flexology type stuff? Kinesio tape is one that everybody probably would know a little bit of, and it's a good all-rounder for it all. It's got that bit of elasticity in it, so it's like if your foot moves and stuff, it's not going to pull it in the same way. It can't be too tight or whatever. I used benzene of tincture, I think the wee stuff's called. It's like a tape adhesive.
Yeah, to
so
stick.
So that helped a little bit with the stick, because it wasn't overly a big issue because our feet weren't getting wet because the conditions were so dry. But what I found was when I was taking my socks off at some point at the end of the day, the tape had adhered to my sock and it kind of given up on against my skin. So what I started doing as well was putting a bit of lube over the top of the tape to try and help stop that. So like,
there's movement, there's something happening between the sock and the tape. Yeah, okay.
Because I bought the book Fixing Your Feet, but I only got it like end of April, beginning of May, thinking, oh, there'll be lots of wee tips and things in here. But it's actually just like a big book of possible things you can do to fix your feet for you to then go and problem solve and do it yourself. And by that point, I'm like, I've only got a few weeks here.
And it's a bit of a doorstop of a book, isn't it? It's a big chunky thing.
It's good, but what I'd learned from that is fixing your feet is kind of exactly the same as nutrition in a sense. It's personal, and I think there's a wee bit from the book. It's like one guy said he's found the perfect way to fix his feet. He's perfectly fixed his feet 10 times, or in 10 different ways, basically. I've hashed that up a wee bit, you get what I mean.
Yeah. Socks. What kind of? I'm going to have to ask you about shoes, because Stephen wouldn't. He would just
socks and shoes.
Yeah, so socks first. What socks were you wearing?
Again, down the rabbit hole with this book. I was like, there's a section in it about antiperspirant for your feet. I was like, oh, skip that. I won't need that. And then I've read a wee bit. I was like, oh wait, actually. So I told my mum, it was my birthday, I was like, I need to get some socks, I need some new socks for the race. So I told her these precise ones that I wanted. They were the hilly ones. I forget the exact one. It was at the marathon, but it was the medium cushioning. And then I was like, read that bit about, getting sweaty feet. And I'm like, my feet get quite warm sometimes to be hot. Maybe I need thinner socks. So I went and got some thinner socks. And then in the race, the way it actually transpired, I actually wanted more cushioning on my feet. I wasn't getting issues from them being too hot. I wanted more cushioning. So I'd spent a fair bit on socks, but that'll last me for a while.
Yeah, and did you
Shoes.
did you change your socks every day? It's
Yeah,
okay not to, but you
yeah,
did. Yeah.
pretty much. Some of the socks, like, because I wanted to keep those medium cushioning ones in the end.
Yeah.
I gave them a quick wash in like the water, and hung them out to dry kind of thing, so they were good enough to kind of like reuse a couple of them. But I mean, I think they would have been fine, reusing them for a couple of days. Anyway, I just wanted to be extra precautious with it all,
Yeah, sure. And then over the socks, go the shoes. What was your
Mhm.
shoe of choice?
Speed goats. Yeah,
Focus Speed Goats.
yeah. I'd actually, I thought this might have been, because I know there's a question you always kind of ask is item bit of kit, a favorite bit of kit. And I
Yeah.
thought I was maybe onto something back when I was through in UTMB supporting Dave. They had, Vibram had a stall there where they were resoling shoes. And if I took them old Hawkers, if I'd taken old Hawkers, I could have got them resold and I could have put big lugs on a speed coat and that would have been ideal. But I took my wrong shoes with me when I went because I didn't realise. And then when I tried to do it here, it just didn't work out. The facilities I had here weren't the same for the right lugs or whatever. But because it was so dry, the speed goats were the perfect shoe for me right up until well, including day 6. And then from day 7 and 8, I used the trail talons, Innovate trail talons. I think
Okay.
generally those Innovate trail talons would be the shoe for Cape Wrath if it wasn't as dry as what we had it. We had the full month there, and maybe a wee bit of no rain,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and like places that you could go across. You think about maybe people that were there previous years, and you're like, eesh, aye, we've got still bits, it's still boggy a little bit in places, but not a quarter or a fraction of what it must have been like for some
Yeah.
people, some of those sections.
Um, Stephen will be impressed when I ask this. What version of Focus Speed Goats were you wearing? What number was it?
Yeah, the sixties.
The sixes, right? Because I know
Yeah.
some people still swear by the fours and they're stockpiling
Yeah.
fours.
See, I like the fives, but I need a wide, and
Okay.
I couldn't get any more of the fives. And like I could get, I think with fives or the fours, I could get like a box fresh pair of them, put them on and go into they'd fit me just straight out the box. I wouldn't want to break them in. I feel like for me the 60 need broken in a little bit. But
Okay.
once I'd done like 50k, 60k or something in them, they felt fine.
Okay.
So
Okay. Cool. And um, I want to speak. We'll come to favourite bit of kit. We'll come to
mhm,
that. I want to speak a wee bit when you mentioned about the lady Erin
yes.
Shaw.
hmm
She was hitting camp sometimes 10 o'clock. Is there cut-offs you've got to hit?
Well, she was hitting camp just before 10 o'clock on some nights because 10 o'clock is the cutoff.
Right. Okay.
So she tried to do the race the year before, and she got timed out on day 3. And there's a time on day 3 after the Falls of Glomach. That's the bit where people that are near the back of the pack, that's the only cut off mid race that, well, not the only one, but the predominant one that gives people issues.
Okay.
So she had trained and she'd put in invested a lot of time and effort into trying to get that one. And it was like, so like, yeah, I was trying to get updates to find out if she'd made it or not when I was running along. Yes, and she did it. I mean, yeah, and she got into like, I don't know if it was like 10 to 10 or something like that. It was late on though.
Yeah. Man, that's a different kind of challenge
Oh yeah.
for somebody doing that, Leon. Did you find any stage any day more challenging? Or what was the most challenging stage for you, Ian?
Day 3 got a bit tough near the end. That last
Mm,
climb on day 3, it was yeah, that's what I said to her. I said it almost had me that bit, but the rest of it was kind of okay. I got in the zone a lot of points. Uh, yeah, there was no bits that were really overly tough. I didn't really have any big down points. You know. I mean, I was listening to Blue Lagoon a fair bit, and so he's got quite a few songs where he's singing about death and stuff like that. I know he's got some songs that make me think of my boys and stuff like that. And there's you get some of the emotions and stuff like that. But I mean, that was great. Like I say, with other things, you embrace that and having
hmm
a bit of it and thinking about then when you're running down a bit and getting a bit emotional, and it distracts you from thinking about, oh, that niggle, is that getting sore?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So do you
so.
feel do you feel it was from your point of view, a
mhm.
well managed race?
By me, like by my runs,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think so. I'm more that way minded, where I'll be more reserved at the start of things. I'm not really one for going out too fast and stuff. I don't know, it's a stubbornness, because I hear like, oh, people always do that wrong. So I'm like, I'm not going to do that wrong. So I, I think I paced it pretty well. The interesting part to it is, they talk about some people being better uphill runners or downhill runners. I never really knew where I was with that, but during the race, I was much stronger on the ups. I was like catching and sticking with people who were maybe like 5 places above me on the ups and stuff. But as soon as I came to the flats and the downs, they then pull away. And I just feel it's interesting. I feel like I got in a wee bit of a rhythm on the downhills where I was protecting myself a little bit, and I was just taking, smaller steps. And it took until about midway through day 7 till I feel like I remembered how to run downhill again at a certain point,
Mm-hmm.
and just to kind of break out of that, like, kind of wee pattern that I was in.
Brilliant, man. I find it fascinating to be even talking about it, and that because from when you were describing about a number of things, it sounded like your race management was spot on, and
I had a lot.
that. Sorry, when you go,
I had good friends giving me good advice. Yeah,
yeah, but
Mark Smith
then,
and Scott and other people. Yeah, yeah,
but then you've still got to execute that. Do you
yeah.
know what I mean? So you should be really. I'm sure you are very, very
Mm.
proud of that. You take to go and do some with the strength and conditioning to lift that medal. Do you know what I
So,
mean?
no, you feel it wearing on your neck.
I'll bet you do. I'll bet you do. So listen, I'm just trying to look at the overall scores. 18th out of 90 finishers.
Oh, super happy with that. Yeah, yeah,
That's amazing, man.
yeah, yeah.
This is stuff of dreams. Had you any idea what you might do? Or you also, let's say, get this right, you finished in a time of 58 hours, 27 minutes, and 7 seconds. What was your hopes going in?
Time-wise, nothing. I mean, each year that race is so different. It makes it quite hard to actually look back and find out how long you're going to be in some of the bits, or
Hmm.
compare different races, different years. Uh, the main thing is I just didn't want to go over my ankle or something like that and not finish. You hear like, well, I just wanted to kind of finish, but if I got top 20, I kind of had a little bit of that in the back of my head. I mean, if I'd been like 22nd or 25th or something like that, I'd still be really happy.
Mm.
But when I think I got, I don't know how this transpired, whether it's people dropping out or me getting faster or whatever, or people slowing down for different issues. But as the time went on, I think my placing for each day got faster, kind of thing. And I'm quite pleased how that worked out as well. I mean, it kind of reassures me that I've maybe paced it and trained it, I've done things right.
Hmm.
So yeah,
And that's where I was going with that race management thing.
yeah,
That's where I was going with that. So congratulations on finishing 18th out of 90, but
thank
congratulations
you.
on getting it right. And also, I think, really important, sticking to your plan.
Yeah,
Who
yeah.
cares? Who cares what everybody else is doing?
Hmm.
But to be able to
Well,
stick to
so.
that, especially when you see people move. Are you a competitive person?
Some people would say so. I don't think I'm that competitive. I use things as goals. Like, if I see somebody in front of me and be like, right, I'm going to try and
Mm.
catch them in a sense. But you know what? I could take it or leave it a little bit. I mean, I would say, uh, English Ben. I don't know his real name. He was an English guy called
English
Ben.
Ben.
He
I
he
love it.
came 19th. I knew, put it
Okay.
this way, I knew I had like 5, 10 minutes on him, and I knew he went past me like near the beginning of day 8, when I was like, I want to take day a little bit more easy and just enjoy it and chat with folk, and then like seeing him pass me, I'm like, nah, it's like, we're going for it. So
English Ben.
yeah,
Brilliant, man. You actually finished, I think, 26 minutes ahead of English Ben.
yeah,
Overall. So
yeah.
absolutely brilliant. And maybe I'll ask your sister Isabel if you're competitive. Maybe she'll give me a different viewpoint on that.
I don't
Maybe.
know. I don't know if I'm that competitive with her. I know Dave's wife, Katie. She thinks I'm competitive, but I'm like, I don't know. It depends on the situation, maybe.
Yeah, it's all relevant
Yeah.
and relative, I should say. Um, okay, we spoke a bit about kit. I predominantly spoke about shoes and socks. But favourite bit of kit that you had with you, Ian?
Right. I was going to make this relevant to Cape Wrath and like to be really like my watch is probably the best kind of thing, to be honest, but it's a bit kind of boring.
What watch
So
is it though? What watch is it? Because people
Garmin
love to
Phoenix
talk about a
6,
watch.
been a
Phoenix
trusty
6.
watch for, I don't know, a good few years now. So yeah, still working well. Battery performed
Did
perfectly
you only
throughout the whole race.
just charge it overnight and
Yeah,
it
yeah,
lasted all day?
yeah,
Full
yeah.
navigation all the time?
hmm Well, majority, I put it on. I've got my own wee power saving setting that I put it on. It turns off like the light. It works with gestures and different things, so that makes it work last almost twice as long.
Okay. You know
So
that people will be messaging you on social media now asking you about that power
yeah,
saving setting. So, because it's
yeah,
a thing, isn't it? People,
yeah,
you can get all these portable chargers and everything that is meant to make life a wee bit easier, but some people's batteries last longer than others and all that sort of stuff. But good to know Garmin Phoenix 6 was the watch
yeah.
of choice, but that's not going to be your favourite bit of kit.
No, no, this is something a bit more niche, I suppose, in a sense. So one of the things I was worried about was sleeping. I'm the sort of person, whereas if it's a ticking clock or a snorer or
Mm.
cuckoo birds, maybe I'll tell you about the cuckoo birds. Uh, uh, I'll just tune into that, and I'm not going to get my sleep. I'm not going to get my recovery. So I was concerned about that. So I had in-ear earplugs, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to go out and get, those builders kind of ones, the big cans that go over the top,
Yeah,
the ear
yeah, yeah.
defenders. So I got them. So when I was sleeping, I had my in-ear earplugs, my over-the-top ones, and I had this Halo face mask that's like a blackout curtain, and it was,
Mm.
yeah, I didn't hear any cuckoo birds in the morning. Like I didn't hear anybody snoring really, anything like that. And I think that's when we were talking about earlier. That's one of the things that helped me get a good sleep and a good recovery. So that worked really well, and I didn't hear anybody else talking about using that a bit. I mean, you need to be able to sleep quite comfortably on your back for it. If you're
Yeah.
tossing and turning, doesn't work so well. But the thing with the cuckoo birds is I remember overhearing a couple of women talking about it, and they were like at the beginning of the week, you're like, oh, you hear the cuckoo birds, it's lovely, you can hear them. And they were everywhere actually. And you got like a few days in, and people were like, fucking cuckoo birds, buckle up. And like, at 5 o'clock in the morning, cuckoo. So I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah, as you say though, once you tune into something like that, it's all
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can hear. You hear it all the time,
I
all the
just hope
time.
I wasn't the snorer though in the tent, but
Mm.
nobody let on, so I don't know.
So is that what you would say? The ears,
Yeah,
the ear stuff, and
yeah.
the halo.
Yeah, something a bit different. Yeah, if you're
Mm.
doing that sort of stage race, they work superbly well for getting a good sleep and recovery. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, we have to speak about nutrition. And
hmm
you said there was soup and copious,
Yes,
endless
chips.
chips and soup. Was it good chips, or wasn't it like?
Situationally, very good chips. Yeah, the best chips. I'd
Mm,
reserve maybe the best chips for a wee chippy on the pier in Tobermory. Maybe if you're ever there,
mm.
John. They do
That's
some. Yeah.
worth a visit. Worth a visit to
There's an
Tobermory.
excuse for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the
Um.
chip the chips are really good. Yeah, you can get a lot of salt and vinegar and stuff on them and sauce, and
Mm.
yeah, the food in camp was good. And I'd have maybe two portions of chips and then two dinners. You're racing slow, eating fast, kind of. But yeah,
Yeah. And nutrition for you on the move. What was your food of
so
choice?
my two main things. I've got my spreadsheet up here because there's quite a bit of stuff on it. But it was like the SIS beta gels
The
and
40-gram ones.
yeah, 40
Yeah,
grams, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
They worked superb the whole time. Active recovery drink mix, because one of the things I wanted to do was to be drinking calories constantly.
Mm,
So they were kind of like the main part of nutrition each day, and then I would have like one or two of about seven other things, like Cliff Blocks, wee oat bars, almond fingers, banana bread. I had some cheese and pickle, but that only really lasts for the first 2 or 3 days, and it could
yeah.
potentially go a bit kind of off. And one of the things that I have quite often that I don't really see anybody else with is dried mango. But the guys listening to will be laughing. They're going about my dried mango. This isn't just normal dried mango. This is like the good stuff. So it's forest fruits. They do normal stuff, but they also do like the good stuff. And that's what my two young boys call it. And like, Daddy, can we have some of the good stuff? Yeah. And it's this that's yeah, it's a bit juicier, a bit sweeter. There's a wee bit extra sugar or something in there, and it's yeah,
So
that's kind of one of my
what's the
go-tos.
carb? What's the carb return for dried mango?
What have I got here? Yeah, it's quite high. I've put 40 grams here for, yeah, but the wee portions, I put them in wee bags that were 50 grams in weight, and then it was 40 grams of carbs, but I'm hesitating if that's actually right. That sounds a bit off, but yeah, something like that. I don't know, I need to look at
But
it.
it was working. And
Yeah.
did you stay? Did that range of food sustain you over the 8 days?
Yeah.
Or did you ever think, I'm never eating that again?
So what some people say is the folk that just try and go off gels and food and the drink mix without anything else can start to struggle a little bit. You need a little bit of something else, and I think variety is key a little bit to it. Everything I had just worked really well for me. I mean, it was warm a bit as well, like especially that first day. Like, relatively, that first day was one of my harder days. Like
But you mentioned warm. What
uh,
about salts? Were you taking salt tabs or?
yeah, well, that's part of the active root drink comes in because it's got electrolytes in it. And then I had these. It was Bix. I got these ones. I got it when I was out in Chamonix with Dave at UTMB. They had a stall there, and it was Bix, and they had a grapefruit one. And on day 3, it got quite hot at one point, midway through the day, and they were almost a little bit like fizzy water in a sense. They had a bit of fizz almost to them, and they were really good. I was really appreciative of them at that
Brilliant.
point.
Aye.
So yeah, it kept me on top because I've had issues with cramped things before, but at the same time, I think I'm quite good in the heat. So I didn't have any issues with cramp really. I mean, they say it's mainly from conditioning or whatever, and it was all steady paced throughout. And even though it was warm for the first 6 days, it kind of all seemed to fall into place. So
And what about, like, how did you hydrate yourself? Like, were you
yeah.
carrying like a litre or 2 litres?
So,
What did you
so
have?
they had their hot weather thing activated, which means you have to carry. So the mandatory uh, carrying amount is 1.5 litres. The hot weather means you have another litre on top of that. So we were carrying 2.5 litres, or the ability to carry that. I never carried that. I never carried more than a litre and a half. I think, see, on more general Scottish weather conditions during the race, you can fill up within an hour. I know guys I've heard done it and they only really carried 500 mils the majority of the time, apart from there's one section on day 6 where there's like cattle and things, and you kind of want to, there's a stretch there you need a bit more. So we just filling up from streams mainly. This year they were more cautious on that and the advice, so they told a lot of people to try and put the wee chlorination tablets in. But I only did that once, to be honest. I think last year they had people that came down with norovirus and they traced it back to the fact that they'd filled up near a bothy, which is a bit more of a dangerous,
Yeah.
risky place to fill up for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
People being around, people camping, whatever else. So, but yeah, I mean, some of the water out there is like super fresh, but it can be a little bit more risky. And I've got a filter.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
got one, so I'd fill up with a filter, I'd squeeze that into another one, and I'd fill it up again, kind of thing.
What do you call that? Is that like a life flask? What do you call that filter thing?
Oh, I just got a water filter. I mean, you do get
Right.
like those
Okay.
life straws, I think, maybe, but
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I
yeah,
meant.
you
Ian,
get
thank you.
life straws probably do like ones that's just like a straw, but I think they do ones that go in bottles as well.
hmm
So, and
hmm
that worked fine for me.
Brilliant.
I think there was only
Okay.
maybe one point where it got a little bit low, but then the rest of it was okay.
Brilliant. As again, it comes back to a really, really well managed race,
Yeah.
and being on top of what you need when you need it.
hmm
I wish I could do that,
Well, it's good
man.
fun, some of it as well. You would get the map out each day, and it's good fun looking at a map. And I've got to enjoy that. And then sometimes you know, like, okay, this point here is where you can get water from. And so you got a rough idea sometimes on some sections that you need to be more cautious of.
So if you've got the map and you can read the map, obviously, then you know if you're thinking, right, I've got 400 mil left.
Mm.
I've either got to watch what I'm doing until I get to that water source, or I can glug this. I'm going to be there pretty soon.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant. Um, he takes a glug of water just at the perfect time there. There you go. So, any outstanding or memorable moments, highlights from your 8 days?
I'll go rephrase it. No, partly. So I'd say day 2 was my favourite day. Day 7 was really good as well. But there was a moment on day 2 where it was just like, and it wasn't even in a place where, there was overshadowed by some more like spectacular bits of scenery in other places. It was coming down towards where checkpoint 2 is. It's at the end of Loch Nevis, and there's this kind of bay bit there, and it was just so wild and remote, the bit that you're in, and you kind of think, like, we're actually really, really doing this now, you actually, we're in it, we're doing the race, and it was just kind of those kind of wee goosebump kind of moment for, I don't know what reason or why it came at that bit kind of thing, but yeah, that was a really kind of wee kind of high point. And then obviously the end, like I've talked about before, coming in that corner and getting those endorphins at the finish. Those 2 points were kind of the highlights, I suppose.
Brilliant. How have you recovered since the event?
Pretty well. So see after on the night of day 7, I woke up middle of the night with like night sweats. I hadn't heard anything about this before, and I had to get up, I had to change my top and stuff like that. It was pretty bad. And I was talking to people the next morning, and they were like, "Oh, that normally happens like the week after." And then again, I was speaking to my friend about it, and he's like, "Yeah, I had night sweats for 2 weeks," and I was like, "Oh dear, it's like got this coming now." And people always talk about like your ankles swelling and such, and my ankles were feeling maybe say a bit puffy by this point. There was certainly kind of feel that they had the range of motion in them, but then nothing transpired. It was like no night sweats. The feet kind of gradually eased off after a few days. I didn't that first week I didn't do anything till the end, and I did a 2K park run with my son. The week after, I did a couple of sessions on the spin bike and just taking it quite cautious. I was seeing some other people out doing bigger runs, but I just wanted to be careful with it, because there is quite a bit of chat around. Your muscles will heal a bit faster, but the other things, you won't know that they're not fully healed till you try and put a bit more effort in. And
Yeah,
I've got no rush,
because
so
we're only a month, 5 weeks post event,
yeah,
aren't we?
yeah.
So it's
I need, I
still
need, I
early
need,
days.
I need to get back into a little bit of shape for next weekend though, because like I say, like my friend Dave Adams, he's doing his Bob Graham round, and I'm supposed to be pacing him on one of the legs, so I need to try and keep up with
Okay.
him. So
Dave
he's,
Adams,
he's,
man,
he's
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 a
wanted to do a
beard all the way.
21 hour round, but we'll try and slow him down a wee bit, maybe just come us in for 22 or 23 maybe.
Yeah,
So
he's featured quite a bit in this episode, Dave
I
Adams.
know. I know. I
Um,
should be mentioning my wife and all the stuff that she's done, looking after the kids and uh, stuff before. I mean, she even got them wee t-shirts and stuff like that on them for
so were they there at the finish? Can I
at the
ask that
start. They were there at the
at the
start.
start?
It's a bit. We talked about it, but it's a bit of a long way for them to come. Didn't really feel that fair for them to come all the way up north, kind of thing. So they
Yeah,
came to the start and they seen me finish the end of day 1. They went round to the where the viaduct is. They're Harry Potter fans,
yeah, yeah.
and she had wee t-shirts on with them. And it's like my younger one, he randomly came at the phrase one night when we put him to bed, you're like night night, love you, all that. And he's like, don't get lost. I was like, all right, what'd you say? So his t-shirt had like, don't get lost, daddy, and stuff like that on it.
Brilliant.
And
I love
so they were at the
that.
start waving me off on the boat and stuff. And yeah, it was lovely.
It's a bit hard logistically to get people up there,
Yeah.
wasn't it? So, what was your journey home like? How did you get? What's the story? Where did they drop you off? Back at Fort William?
There was a bus that would take you back to Fort William, but it worked out easier for me to go to Inverness and then get the train down from there to Croy, I think. And then Natasha, my wife, she came pick me up from the station there. So
Hmm. How was that train journey home?
oh, it was nice. We got to sit and chat to people about what we've just done. A bit like just now. It's
Hmm.
like it's after I having meet these people who are always say, you know what it's like. If you've done an event, you love to talk about it, and these people love to share their knowledge and things with you. And then it feels a bit like now it's a little bit like my turn in a sense to do that. So
Yeah. So you're
yeah, yeah.
sitting there going, just ask me, ask me.
There's like this big medal swinging around my neck. It's like, what's that? It's like, uh,
Brilliant. I'm in.
yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Um, somebody listening to this who's never heard of Cape Wrath going, I might go and find out about that. What would Iain Dick say to them? What would you say to somebody thinking about taking on a multi-day staged
Yeah.
event?
So you, there's not many races and things I think that people generally do that are like, like the grueling ones that are tough. That you say to, you probably do the opposite of this. You don't really say to yourself before the end of it, I'd do this again. And like, see on like after day 7 and day 8, I was like, I'd do this again. Like this has been good, you know.
Mm.
Yeah, it's big and scary, I suppose. It's going to be probably something a bit different, but maybe all the more reason. And it's like it the way they put it, even doing the Explorer is an achievement in itself. Do you know that's still big meaty days. You're doing 8 days in a row,
Yeah.
you know. So I mean, yeah, I'd say don't be scared of it. If you go for it, you'll get an experience, you know, and it's I would be surprised if it wouldn't be a good one.
Yeah. And I think I just want to caveat that as well, though. There has to be a sense of preparedness.
Mm.
So you've got to prepare as best you can
Yeah, yeah.
as well, because I
Well, I
think,
mean, there's a couple of quite typical Glaswegian sort of guys that were there, and I don't think they really prepared too much for it, but they were tough. Yeah,
yeah,
like it's that sort of thing where like, and they were so happy all the time. One of the guys, he had issues with his tibialis, so he had to walk it from like I don't know day 6 or something like that. But whenever you seen them, they were like smiling. You can walk. If I don't think you can just walk it all, but and make all the cut off points. You can't do it. You need to be able to run a bit at certain points, do you
hmm,
know. But I think certainly maybe he was on the Explorer actually. I don't know if he did the full thing. I think he did do the full thing. But anyway, I don't. Yeah, you're best to. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. You're best to train for it, yeah, and be prepared.
yeah,
But
yeah, do
just to give
that.
you a bit, those guys they got a bit of adversity and they had to kind of hike through a lot of it because of the issues, the possible stress fracture, and they
Yeah.
still managed to get it done, and they did it with a smile on their face at the same time. So
Hmm. So, and
great mental attitudes.
there's going to be problem solving
Hmm.
aplenty. If
Yeah,
you're a
yeah,
problem, if you want to test your problem solving, you can go and do the Cape Wrath Ultra.
yeah, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, we've come to the last two questions. I never get to ask this question. It's always Stephen's question,
Aye.
the dialect dictionary one. So this can be, you've met a lot of people on this
Uh-huh.
Cape Wrath Ultra Adventure. This could be a word that they've used, or it could be a word that you've picked up from anywhere in your life, Ian.
Uh-huh.
What's the word or phrase that you would like to add into the dialect dictionary?
So I'm gonna twist this one slightly as well. I suppose you could still class it as a word, but do you know what a BHAG is?
Never heard of that in my
A wee
life.
bit
Tell
more of an
me.
acronym. So, and I like it because it fits. It's a
Okay.
big, hairy, audacious goal.
Big, hairy, audacious goal.
A
B.
BHAG.
I was thinking bee, as in buzzy bee.
Aye, aye.
Yeah.
Just I
Big,
saw BHAG.
big, hairy, audacious goal.
Aye.
I love how folk add the word hairy in. You know what I mean?
Why?
Got a big hairy fright. How is it hairy? But big, hairy, audacious goal. Yeah. Awesome. I love that. I
Mhm.
better write that down because if I forget it, Stephen will say BHAG. I'll go, but I've got it written down. Awesome. I love that. Thank you very much. And then the final question, Ian, you're listening to the podcast. You know what's coming. We've got a playlist of songs, tunes,
Mhm.
tracks for our listeners to listen to, and we ask our guests to add a track in. What track is Ian going to add in for the
So
listeners?
the track of my Cape Wrath off the new album from none other than Beluga Lagoon, Goose Rider.
Goose Rider.
It's a great wee tune to run to. Uh,
Okay.
I was dancing down the downhills on day 2 to that one, and yeah, it was good.
Brilliant. Well, that'll be the tune that'll play us out on the audio version. We don't do it on
Good
the
stuff.
YouTube one. But Goose Rider by the Young Hearts Run Free favourite songsmiths,
Yeah,
Beluga
yeah.
Lagoon, will be our track. Thank you very much. What an interesting chat this has been about. Well, I've spoken to some people about multi-stage events before, but it's been absolutely fascinating to get the detail of your journey. We spent 20 minutes talking about your
Mhm.
introduction as well, which was
Yeah,
which
yeah.
was which was fascinating. And we have met in person. We
Mhm.
met at a Wild Hearts event. You and
We
I
have,
met,
yes.
I met Natasha as well.
Mhm.
We've met there, so it was lovely to get the chance to speak to you again in a bit more detail. And described fantastically well. I'm sure whetted the appetite of a number of people, Iain. But I think what is coming across for me is that sense of adventure. And I also do sense a bit of competitiveness, if I'm going to be honest. But also
Yeah,
preparedness. And you mentioned about that an eye on the data as well, and you're picking up that sort of stuff. And somehow, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that background of American football has put you in a good place for this, because there's a core strength there, isn't there?
I don't know how much I'm. This is what I joked to Natasha. I'm not the man I used to be. Like, but yeah, I know a lot about the training and the weightlifting side to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that
Mhm.
all plays in, and it's a discipline. There's
Yeah,
another
yeah.
word we could
That way,
use,
yeah.
disciplined as
Hmm.
well, and getting that done. So we've not said what's next. I know you said you were having a wee bit of a break. Is there a goal on the horizon? I know you've got Dave's Bob Graham
Uh,
support, but is there something that
well,
Ian's got coming next?
the natural step is to go to the Dragon's Back, but I'm really sitting on the fence about that one. You know, that's like day three
Mm.
on repeat. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I like sort of the Beyond the Ultimate. Maybe sort of some of those stuff looks interesting. You know, more adventure.
Mm.
I don't know. Maybe I'm a UTMB race. I need to get those stones reactivated from the UTS 50, but nothing's set. Nothing's set yet.
Okay, so there's time. There's
Yeah,
plenty of
yeah.
time. You know what? Let's just enjoy this for a wee bit.
Of
I'm sure
course, yeah.
Natasha will be happy with
Yeah.
that as well.
Yeah,
Let,
yeah.
let's just enjoy this, and I think you're
Well,
setting a
she's got the Great Glen Way coming up in a few weeks.
that's coming up very soon, isn't it? The
Yep, yep.
Great Glen, which is a brilliant adventure. So, will you and the boys be going up to cheer
My
her on with that?
my mum's going to be looking after the boys. She helped me during the Cape Wrath and stuff as well, so I should really give her a wee shout out. She'll listen to it, obviously. But she's going to look after the boys, and me and Ben are going to go up and support because Natasha and my sister are both doing it. So we're going to go
Ah,
up and support them. Yeah.
so
Do
lads'
their trek.
weekend away for the women are going to be there. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Well, hope that goes as well or better than can be
Yeah.
expected. And I wish you all well. Thank you
Yeah.
very much for your time, Ian.
Th
I thoroughly enjoyed the chat.
Thank you, John. You know, I really appreciate what you guys do, and it's kept me entertained on many a run. So thank you.
Brilliant. Cheers, man.
Cheers.